Do you find it difficult to say no in situations? Do you struggle to stand up for yourself? Would you rather go with someone's choice, even if it means ignoring yours? If your answer is yes, or you know someone for whom this is relevant, this episode is for you. This is Mind Your Mornings with Chandy, a fortnightly podcast that takes you on the journey to a brave new you. Episode 28. Hi, and welcome to Mind Your Mornings. I'm Chandy, your host for this podcast. Over the last 27 years, I've interacted with more than 1,000 people, both individuals and families. And through this podcast, I want to bring to you what I have learned about life and its nuances through the experiences of people I have interacted with. In this episode, I will continue to share some of my learnings from Dr. Gabor Mate, the expert in trauma, addiction, and childhood development. Today, we will discuss the two important psychological needs for survival: attachment and authenticity. These two needs are paradoxical in nature, but is there a way to resolve the two opposing ends of a spectrum? Let's first understand what each of these mean. Linguistically, we understand the two terms, but how does it actually play out in our mind? Let me tell you the story of a client. We will call her Sapna. Sapna is a bright young lady in her early 30s. She came to me after trying out various forms of therapy. Sapna belongs to a demanding family. Her parents used to put pressure on her to get good marks. She needed to be clearing all competitive exams and get a high pay job abroad. She was brought up with the unlived expectations of her parents. And to meet these expectations, very soon she learned not to say no to her parents. Her childhood was spent in tuition classes, books, and study clubs. She had limited exposure to games, fun, and the normal life of a teenager. When she grew up, she went to study in another town where she had access to friends, hostel life, and more. Now, Sapna had never refused anything asked of her. She was what the world calls a nice person. To belong to this new world of college, she began to say yes to parties and alcohol. She tried to fit in with her friends. She tried desperately to be liked. How did a girl like Sapna, diligent and conscientious, turn around to ignore those aspects of her life and become like the people around her? This is not a value judgment. Instead, let's try and understand the psychology of Sapna. As a child, Sapna learned to never say no. At a very young age, she realized that to be liked by her parents, she needed to say yes and believe the things they believed in. The fear of being dismissed, or worse still, unloved, was too great for her. This comes from our need for attachment. So, what is attachment? It is the inherent need to be close to another human being, to be loved. All of us want to be nurtured, to feel safe, to be accepted. Socially and culturally, humans have always found comfort in belonging. Not just humans, birds too show this trait of connection where they take care of one another. But this attachment can come at the cost of authenticity. Let's look at Sapna. In the quest to belong to her family, her authentic voice did not develop. She did not know what she liked or disliked. This continued into adulthood. During therapy, Sapna arrived at a startling realization. She didn't know who she was. She had become comfortable with this being of hers, of accepting life, except for bouts of withdrawal from everything and everyone, which is why she came to me. While it may come across as nice, is extreme attachment, it is actually a people pleasing trait. It leaves the person dependent and helpless. But what is authenticity and where does it come from or develop? When you look at a baby, barely 18 months old, they learn to say no. They show it by spitting out food they don't want to eat, or turning their mouth away, or pursing their lips tight. It is often referred to as the terrible twos when the child starts to develop their own authentic voice. While it may seem terrible to the tired caregiver, it is actually essential to the growth of an individual. If this development is stunted or shunted, the child often grows into an adult without a voice, without the capacity to judge what they like and what they don't like. Authenticity is our ability to be ourselves, to feel and express without fear of judgment or shame. Now, the concept of authenticity is evolutionary. It has developed from the years when we lived in the wild. For humans back then, it was a nudge from our gut, a word of caution when an enemy is near, or the smell of food. This has enabled us to survive for years and years. So, what happens to a child who gives up authenticity for the sake of attachment? They stop saying no. The mind and body becomes programmed to be agreeable. Standing up for themselves induces feelings of guilt and shame. Choosing our response seems selfish. Giving in to the other seems more likable. This mechanism works for an infant because the primary need is attachment. But as we grow up, authenticity becomes as important as attachment. If we carry attachment into adulthood, every interaction becomes a tussle. A friend says, "Hey, I want you to come over to my place today." But you really don't feel like meeting anyone. Maybe you're reading a book or cooking, or you just want to relax. If you say no, you will feel guilty. So you say, "Hey, sure, come." Attachment has won the inner battle, but you feel resentful. Every moment your friend and you are together, you are thinking, "I wish I could read or cook or relax." Many of us, when faced with this situation like this, we will always choose our need for approval from others rather than deriving it from ourselves, which means we tend to look for outward acceptance rather than self acceptance. We pick bonding over being. When caught between feeling resentful or guilty, I would say pick guilt. Because when you experience this kind of guilt, it means you are also growing slowly into yourself. Will there be consequences? Definitely. Your choice between attachment and authenticity will determine the kind of relationship you have. If you choose attachment, you will feel dependent. And as adults, the question is, am I still as helpless as I was when I was a child? If you choose authenticity, the relationship dynamic will change. People who thrive on you being dependent on them will suddenly experience you as selfish. But I can say this from personal experience. You will know who your true friends are. The ones who will support you in your journey towards discovering your voice are your true friends. This doesn't mean we don't need love and belonging. As human beings, we all do. We want to be cherished, but not at the cost of who we are. Today, each of us may want to sit back and reflect. Do I have difficulty in saying no to people or no to certain people? Is it in my work or in my personal relationships? Why do I find saying no so difficult? How do I feel in my body when I say no? This is the starting point for us to understand ourselves and to understand whether we are coming from a place of insecurity or following our gut. After awareness comes action. To consciously choose not to give in to judgment or judge others in a world where clicks, likes, and dislikes are slowly taking over. Next fortnight, I will be continuing this series about my learnings from Dr. Gabor Mate. Write in to Anna at Anna Chandy if you want any specific theme that you would like me to speak about. Thank you for listening to Mind Your Mornings with me, Anna Chandy. I will see you in a fortnight with another discovery into the mind and the meanings we make. You can subscribe to us on www.annachandy.com. That's our website. If you'd like to subscribe to us, you can subscribe to Mind Your Mornings on Apple or Spotify and listen to the other podcasts. This is Mind Your Mornings with Anna Chandy, a fortnightly podcast that takes you on the journey to a brave new